talk about that first, I guess. Okay. Where that works. Here's another report. Does that look right? Yeah, it's close. I don't know. Here's another report. That's still too low, isn't it? Makes me uncomfortable. Okay. There's been a lot of talk on YouTube about people being shut down. They said I gotta say that the one statement I heard, I gotta admit, don't know anything about it. So this is as far as a report to learn something, probably isn't it, but I know that one statement they made, that they have to be advertiser friendly. Keep in mind, is awfully ugly. It's an awfully ugly statement that was put out by Google. YouTube used to be independent. Then Google took it over, and you always wonder if there's ever a merger that it's going to be a problem later. Well, also they got rid of net neutrality. We know that. What's his name? Ajit Pai. We know that Ajit Pai was a corporate lawyer for the Verizon Corporation, which is the most ugly person you could have. And it was a revolving door involved. Getting the government to screw everybody, help Verizon to the detriment of everybody on YouTube and the First Amendment, and then we'll give you a big raise when you get back with Verizon. It's a revolving door problem. We know that. Where was Trump when this happened? Like, wake up. He talks about Sleepy Joe. Wake up, Sleepy Joe. How about wake up, Trump? The first thing they did, they knocked off Alex Jones right after net neutrality was repealed, and that kicked Trump in the balls. He kicked him, he shot himself in the foot. It's like, he talks about gun rights, the Second Amendment. What about First Amendment? Hasn't he been aware of that? Well, anyway, we know the corporates took over all the media, everything except, and then Al Gore put the internet in to counteract them. Well, the first thing they're going to be after is YouTube. You have secular talk, they have pretty good ratings. You put Cenk and everybody else on there, or at least Cenk's outfit. He's running for office or something, but you have Cenk's out, and all them, they got good ratings. They're going to be after. And that ugly statement they say about they have to be advertiser friendly. It was the corporate advertisers that knocked Bill O'Reilly off of Fox. And there was a corporate interest involved in things, countering what O'Reilly said. But anyway, you never know. This could be my last report. I may be gone. Don't know. But there needs to be some backlash if they do anything like that. I hope there is. Oh, the thing I want to talk about tonight, corporate influence. There's things I think Fox News isn't saying. They're leaving out. Like I always say, they're trying there to defend Trump, and they aren't defending him. They're missing an awful lot. And the corporate swamp is involved in this impeachment a lot more than they're letting on. The corporate influence in impeachment. Bill Barr looked at the AG report, and he said when he looked at it, he said there's a lot of bad faith. Well, if there's bad faith, there's a skunk in the woodpile. There's usually a conflict of interest, axe to grind, ulterior motive, or hidden agenda somewhere. There's more involved. The cards they ain't showing, the way that song says. There's more going on, and I personally think, of course, like I say, I could be paranoid, but there's more going on, and I think it has to do with the corporates and the corporate, that are involved in the campaign finance corruption. And Trump, was trying to shut it down. Talked about term limits, and that's why they're impeaching him. And I'm trying to prove that by preponderance of the evidence. In other words, what I'm saying is, my belief is, and I could be wrong, that if you didn't have campaign finance corruption, they would have had a whole lot of people that hated Trump, but he never would have been impeached. That was the power for it. That was the what drove it, in my opinion. And it wouldn't have been enough. But they're the most powerful force in Congress. They control Congress stronger than anything else. And you just need to look at the things that have happened. The campaign money is what drives Congress. That's what seizes it up. And I think that's why, Tucker Carlson tonight was talking on Fox News, and he said, well, why did the impeachment go through? You had those four musketeers, Ocasio-Cortez and those other three ladies. They don't have that much influence among the populace, among the voter. They don't have all that much. So how did impeachment go through? And I think the answer to that is the campaign finance system. That's my claim here. And okay, now the first thing that concerns me is the Adam Schiff. Okay, there's more than meets the eye, more than meets the eye to Adam Schiff. First place, we know he's dishonest. They proved that several times. It's fairly obvious he's dishonest. They showed it over and over and over. And what I'm claiming here is that even if you're a Democrat and you hate Trump, you need to worry about this because if it's campaign finance that's doing it, it's like I say, you're driving through Wyoming. I always like to use analogies. Let's say you're driving through Wyoming. Though Ocasio-Cortez should be concerned about it too. She wants to impeach Trump, but there's reasons she should have been opposed to the impeachment, even if she's the hard left and afraid of Trump getting back in. Because it's like I say, if you're out in Wyoming and you see a big storm over Chugwater, and you're in Douglas, you think, well, I'm not worried about that because it's clear in Chugwater. Next thing you know, you drive down that way and it's right over your head. That's what's going to happen to her. As Sanders gets in there and as the corporates doing it, they don't want Sanders in either. And Sanders and her are pretty buddy-buddy. Well, last I saw, does she want him impeached? That's what's going to happen. Sets a precedent. And if they got a Republican Congress in there and they got a majority, they can knock him off. But the Democrats need to be concerned about this just as much as anyone else. And I'm a little older than most of them, and I feel like I've gotten a lot smarter than I was when I was their age. And that's one thing I learned, that it'll come back and bite you later, and whether you're a Republican or not. And the thing concerning with Adam Schiff, you find out he gets all his campaign money from Time Warner and AT&T. Well, what do we know about Time Warner and AT&T? This is what bugs me. AT&T was the number one corporation on Ross Perot's list of the corporations that lobbied the Federal Election Commission that kept him out of the debate. Well, how many people on Fox News remember that? They remember the list of the corporations that Ross Perot gave that kept him out of the debate. I bet there's not one of them. Some of them aren't old enough. And most people that watch YouTube aren't old enough to remember Ross Perot. They probably don't, but the people that look him up like what he said. And to me, it seems significant that if you remember something like that, it's something that should be remembered. It's something that ought to be relayed. It's important. And they had, they put the 15% rule in, which means you had to have 15% to get in the debate. And the only reason they did it is shut up Ross Perot. Well, you look at the two people's platforms, Ross Perot and Donald Trump. Ross Perot basically wanted when this is what he laid out, and that's why they shut him up. And it was the very same corporation that Schiff's getting campaign money from, and probably involved in his impeachment. They're probably the one behind it, driving it. And they give him large sums of money to a whole lot of Democrats, including Kamala Harris. I don't know how many other, probably Pelosi too, I don't know. I wouldn't doubt it. But we had Ross Perot's campaign, corporate welfare, he wanted that stopped. Okay, he wanted, talked about the sucking Sound South. If they pass GATT and NAFTA, you'll have a big sucking Sound South. Jobs going to Mexico. Anybody that remembers Ross Perot remembers that sucking Sound South. Okay, he talked about that. He wanted closed borders. That was one of his other things. And he wanted campaign finance reform, which is was a campaign money that Schiff got. He wouldn't have gotten any. Okay, and let's see, corporate welfare. I said that already. Okay, now you have Trump. What's he doing? He withheld aid from Ukraine. Well, what is that? That's corporate welfare, essentially. They're getting a bunch of arms and everything. What does that do? That kicks, that probably, whether Time Warner's involved in that, but you wonder. You wonder because if they don't make the profit out of it, the military-industrial complex. So he withheld aid from Ukraine, and he wanted the wall closed, and, circumvented Congress to do it and got that border closed, and, that raises wages, and that's, they've had their wallet with cheap labor, and he's raised wages, so they got to pay everybody a living wage. That costs them. So they want to remove for that, and term limits, which is the same thing as campaign finance reform, is similar. And basically draining the swamp. So he basically had the same platform Ross Perot had. Trump and Ross Perot had similar platforms. Trump's doing all the things they didn't want, and if AT&T is giving a Schiff money, that's where he gets his money. That's probably what's driving this impeachment. That's my theory. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we look at motive, it speaks to motive. Why is Trump being impeached? We know that if it was the same forces involved. We know they wanted Ross Perot because of campaign finance reform. And we also know that they took over, and this is someone in Congress, went to the media and said that they had lobbied to take away the law that protected the independent media, and they repealed it so they could take over all the media. And they said the reason was to shut up independent voices, to preserve the swamp, to preserve their corruption. And so we know that's their motive behind that. So you can be sure that's probably their motive why they're giving Schiff campaign money, and get rid of Trump. Okay, keeps corruption intact. Let's see, I already said that. Those four. Yeah, okay, they don't have that much influence. Suppose they want to keep her speaker. Oh, that's another thing. Okay, now here's the thing. They say the main motivation for impeachment is Pelosi wanted to keep her speakership. Well, we know that they said the number one thing that drove Pelosi, why she got it, was she was good at fundraising. Where did she get her campaign money? From Time Warner? Probably. Time Warner, AT&T. They merged. Okay, so we know that's Pelosi got. We know also that everyone that got in Congress changed their platform as soon as they got in and lined up behind Pelosi because she was helping them fundraise. So what does that mean? And we also know that when they had cameras in there, that when Trump was talking to her and they had a meeting, he said, get those cameras out of here. Well, you know why? She was in bed of the Time Warner Corporation. That's how she got in there, and she didn't want transparency on that. And Trump, is that why she hates Trump? Because he's shedding light on her corruption? That's what I wonder. I mean, that's what it looks like. And they asked her if she hated Trump. Notice it made her real mad. Well, he's shedding light on her corruption. That's why she hates him, probably. Okay, so we also know that they talked about the wall, and that we had 97% want border security, 97% of the public, and 75% in another poll. And so they talked about the wall and how that would keep the border secure. As you turn her head, wouldn't even listen to the guy. So there's probably the fundraising. That's my theory, and that's why they kept everyone lined up again for this impeachment thing. It has to do with the campaign money. Well, how come Republicans don't bring it out? Because they're all doing it too. Probably. Not only that, they're involved in that big slush fund that sends them to Tahiti and everywhere else and all the perks they get. They don't want it stopped. They're all involved in it, and they don't want the word out. But that's what I think's going on. Okay. I guess I got all that. Okay, so we also know that Laura Ingraham had a report the other night that said AT&T was involved in getting access to the Trump's phone calls that he made to Giuliani, which is attorney-client privilege, technically. So it's privileged information. That's what Nixon did. That's what his people did. Got a hold of privileged information against an opponent. Well, and AT&T was she said it, and even that came out in Congress, too, that AT&T was involved in it. Well, you know that Schiff doesn't care about the law that Trump violated if he's involved with AT&T in getting privileged information from phone records. Doing the same thing, but he's arrogant. It's like, well, I'm part of the swamp. I'm part of the deep state. I'm untouchable. That's arrogance, really. It's like I can just project it back onto Trump. I can do it, but Trump can't. So he's fraudulent. There's a lot of evidence to that. He's a fraud. And that's exactly what Nixon did. And they accused Trump of being worse than Nixon. Look who's worse than Nixon. Schiff. Not a big surprise. I think most people would tell he's dishonest. Anyway, even Democrats. But, same thing's going to happen to Sanders when he gets in. If he tries to drain the swamp, the same thing's going to happen to him. And that's why I think it's important. That's why I think Democrats ought to be interested in this report. You don't care how much they hate Trump. It's going to, turn back and bite them, probably. Okay, it's involving projection. Okay, you also had another thing that bothers me. You had the corporates involved. They were trying to get chain migration stopped. And they were trying to stop the lottery system. And they wanted limited migration. And they wanted the wall. And they wanted, and they had the DACA bill. Well, anyway, Trump put the DACA bill on there. She called it ransom because it gave him more sovereignty. But Trump had to have more sovereignty. It's like when you buy a car, and you're buying a Camaro. And you have 5 or 6 classic Camaros right across the street. They're all $100 cheaper, and you go to the used car dealer. He's going to come down on his price if they're right across the street. But you're buying some classic Cadillac, and there's only one in the world. You know, he knows he's got all the sovereignty, and you got to pay what he wants, and you'll be backed by it. And it's the same thing here. You have all the sovereignty. The corporates have the campaign money. They have all the rights somebody else has. They have a stronghold over the government. And so they didn't want any of those things. Well, you had 51% that wanted the chain migration stopped. They had 51% that wanted, 55% that wanted the lottery system stopped, that wanted limited migration. 78% or 87% wanted the DACA bill. So they threw the DACA bill on there. The only thing was the wall wasn't only 45, 55. 45 on the one on the wall. Anyway, you had, they all went, you know, but guess who the winners were? It's like, you know, in a divorce case where someone steals the money, you know, and it's inherited to you, and so you have a big fight over it. Who's the big losers? The one that stole the money. Who's the other big loser? The one that had to fight over the stolen money. Who's the big winner? The lawyer. The lawyers. They come out ahead every time. And that's basically what happened here with, you know, who was the big winners? The corporates, the people with the campaign money. Even after he added that, and that's how he counteracted. He used the DACA bill to counteract the campaign money. And Dianne Feinstein wasn't smart enough to figure that out. I mean, are these people really that dumb? You know, you look at that and they're just dumber than dog shit. Almost everybody on there. And the people on Fox News, none of them get it. But anyway, and so you know that the corporates, what I'm trying to make, the corporates have an awful stronghold over the Congress. And if Trump circumvented that, and Time Warner profits from open borders, or at least, but they don't report on Mexicans across the border, you know that through CNN, so they probably have a corporate interest there. And so if it's totally been controlling Congress and Trump circumvented it, that's probably the reason they want him impeached, and that's probably what's the driving force that caused the impeachment. That's my opinion. Okay, now I was knocking Mitch McConnell a while back. I said he's the kingpin of campaign, which he is, campaign finance corruption. He has done a little bit to fight corruption, though, I've got to say, lately. He's helped Trump with these trade deals, which counteracts the corruption and the campaign money that keeps them as crooked as they are, and why they ram them through Congress. So McConnell has done some good lately, but he still has a whole lot of other minuses that are a lot more serious. But I have to give him credit for what he's done lately to fight corruption, which surprises me, but he has done it. Okay, there's 3 reasons that McConnell needs to tell the Democrats where to stuff this impeachment thing. My first reason is we don't know who the whistleblower is. So the whole thing, is faulty. It ought to be just thrown out. Because you don't have justice if you don't know who he is. You can't cross-examine him. You don't know what his motive is. It may be a butt ugly motive. He may be involved in a revolving door. Some corporation paying him to get in there and knock Trump off, get him a big paycheck. No one knows. And so, and even in court, you always have those rights in court. And if they're trying, it's a death penalty for the president, you need to have, justice. You don't have justice for the people that put him in, essentially, and that's part of the Constitution, justice for all, or whatever, Declaration or Pledge of Allegiance. But it's part of the American system, justice, the democratic system. Okay, and all they got was hearsay. Well, hearsay is inadmissible, just like a lie detector test, inadmissible. Very often, lie detector tests work 86% of the time, but they're still inadmissible because of the 14% they don't work. The same thing here. If it's hearsay, it might be accurate, but it should be dismissed. So that's the second reason that Mitch McConnell needs to just tell them to stuff it and dismiss it. And the corporate campaign money involvement. There's still a question about how much campaign money was involved in this and whether it's the main thing driving it. And Adam Schiff is obviously corrupt and has ulterior motives, conflicts, hidden agenda, and an axe to grind. And then he's dishonest and fraudulent. All those things, and it should be dismissed for that reason. Okay, Trump's major crime was interfering with the swamp rat, Biden. He's their main swamp man. They want him in. They want to switch back all those deals that Trump made, switch them back so they screw the public again. And Biden was their man to do it. And Trump, but shed some transparency on his corruption, which he'll obviously be involved in if he wins. And they didn't want it. That's his crime. He interfered with the swamp. And he's trying to drain the swamp. That's the main reason he's being impeached. And when Ivanka said the reason you have all the noise against Trump is because he's trying to drain the swamp. That's my theory of why that she's exactly right, and Fox News doesn't quite get it. Anyway, I guess that's all I got to say on that. And I guess that's enough for now. Thanks for watching.